Alright, quick question for you guys today. Say for example, you're building your dream home and tapos na kayo sa design process. Sabi ni architect, this project from his experience is going to cost about 10 to 12 million. May isang contractor nag-quote ng around 12 million. May isa naman nag-quote ng 7 million. 5 million in difference. Which contractor do you pick? Siyempre, di ba, tayo, that's 5 million difference. Parang gusto ko tong 7 million na contractor. I know somehow he can make it work. But kahit pa paano, guys, there will always be reasons why this contractor is a lot cheaper than the other estimates. And if you're being smart about it, you're going to be very suspicious of that 7 million quote. In this video, we are going to talk about bakit merong mga 7 million contractor and ano yung mga shortcuts na ginagawa nila sa project mo that might not be just about quality, it can also be very, very unsafe. That's our video for today. Thank you, Apple Cart, for my new MacBook Pro. Meron akong papakita sa inyo, guys. Hindi na pala sila Apple Cart ngayon. They have renamed into Mobile Cart PH. We buy most of our Apple products from them. I'll put a link down below. Super convenient, super easy to work with, and their prices are very, very competitive. Check them out, guys. So, in China, may tinatawag nilang tofu dreg project. These are projects, I'll show it on screen right here. These are projects na nakakatakot talaga. Sobrang substandard. Sometimes yung bakal na ginagamit nila ay hindi bakal, kawayan. Paminsan, very much low in the quality control and quality standard para makapag-profit lang si contractor and si developer, whichever. Now, I was looking at this and dito naman sa Pilipinas, hindi naman ganyan kalala. Pero there are some versions of this that is happening in the Philippines, although more subtle. So, a quick story ng konti. My dad, yesterday, and this is why I'm making the video, my dad yesterday was talking to me and sabi niya, kawawa daw yung isang kaibigan niya. Dinala siya ng kaibigan niya sa isang construction project na, ito yung gagawin kong warehouse, whatever. And hindi pa nag-start yung foundation and everything else. They were just doing the earth moving, meaning yung mga soil portions of the project. And nakikita na niya na sobrang malaki yung shortcut na ginawa ng contractor. And dito tayo maloloko if we don't know what we're looking for. Which leads me to one of the most common. Paminsan, hindi pa nga dishonest yung contractor, hindi nga lang nila alam kung ano yung dapat na pamaraan of backfilling. So, say for example, andito yung lupa mo. Pero, parang, yung daan nandito. Gusto ko iangat to that level. So, kailangan natin lagyan ng soil yung area underneath the house to raise everything up. And this is where a lot of contractors go wrong, whether intentionally or unintentionally. Ito, for demo purposes. So, ito yung bahay natin. This is all the soil that needs to get filled. When the contractor wants to shortcut or when hindi niya gagawin ng maayos, ang ginagawa is we put all the soil here and then dito na area yung kino-compact. Yung soil sa taas lang ang may compaction, yung sa baba hindi. So ang mangyayari dyan is that this top portion of the soil will be the only one that is solid. Yung sa baba is still loose. Now you won't notice this right away, but over time the house will move and start to sink. And you'll have a lot of cracks on your walls and potentially a dangerous situation when it comes to your house. The ideal way of going about it is, it's called an engineered fill. So every around 1 foot, kailangan yan kino-compact. So in this scale, ganito lang siguro yan, and then compact. And then fill another, and then compact. And then fill another, and then compact. So, madugo siyang trabaho to do it right. And if you don't know what you're looking for, maloloko ka talaga. So, this is just something to think about whenever you're building your own home. That's why it's very important to hire proper professionals when it comes to building a quality project. So that's point number one. So lahat ng mga items that we're going to be talking about today, kung saan pwede tayong ma-shortcut, meron siyang mga equivalent test na pwede natin gawin to make sure everything was done right. For example, yung soil scenario natin, meron yung something called the field density test para malaman natin kung gaano ka-compacted yung soil. Now, I won't go into the details of all these tests. I'll just give you an idea. But the whole point of this video is just an eye-opener para malaman natin na it's not as straightforward as it seems. And yung mga kaibigan kong na sinasabi nila, ako mismo ang magmamanage para ayusin nila. If you don't know what you're looking for, or if you don't know what to look for, it's not that straightforward. So, yan lang. Hopefully by now, I'm starting to make a point for having professionals in your project. Hindi yung, hindi ko kailangan ng architect, hindi ko kailangan ng engineer, ako mismo magmamanage. Ang dami talagang ways of making shortcut. Ang daming ways na even honest contractors can make mistakes. That's why even in our own projects, we hire independent engineers to QC our own work to make sure that the project we're delivering is on par. One of the biggest items na kailangan natin i-manage and to make sure that is up to standard is concrete or concreto. That is a big part of any construction project, and that has to be quality checked. Now, an unethical contractor, ang ginagawa lang niya is to minimize the strength of the concrete. Usually, konti lang yung nilalagay niya semento, which is the most expensive part. And yung tinatawag natin na compressive strength or how strong concrete is, bababa. So, you may not see it, you may not even feel it or notice it, but once may mga calamities such as earthquakes or even konting soil movements, malaki yung problema ng ating mga projects. That's why also makikita natin na yung medyo substandard na project, mas marami yung mga cracks here and there. That is because of all these things added up together make for a substandard home. Now, when it comes to concrete, ang daming tests na kailangan natin gawin. The moment it is delivered on site, you have to do temperature checks, slump tests to make sure sakto yung flow, hindi umaampaw yung concrete natin. You also have to do a strength test, which is a compressive test to make sure the concrete is up to standard. Now, you don't have to think about these things. Usually, if you have a proper engineer on site, dapat ginagawa na nila to. But make sure na binibigay nila sa iyo yung results nun so that you know that your home is on the right path to being a quality structure. Now, all the things that we're talking about are the most common types, pero ang dami pa talagang pwedeng i-substandard when it comes to your project. I'm not trying to scare you. I'm trying to tell you, you can't do it on your own. And one of the most common element of nakaw when it comes to your project is yung bakal natin, yung steel. And the most common type of steeling when it comes to steel is the undersized steel member. Meaning, if what was specified in your project was, sabihin natin 5 mm, I will just put 4.5 mm. From afar or even close up, hindi mo malalaman na substandard or undersized ang nilalagay unless you have a caliper. And that's just one way of stealing from your steel members. This type of pagka-undersize is so common that even trusted hardware stores, yung kung saan kami mismo ang nag-order, they carry the undersize and the standard. That's why whenever we call them, we always have to say, bigyan mo ako ng angle bar na 1.5 mm, sabihin natin. Yung standard ha. That means that they will give us the right size and the right thickness. Now, you can also order it the other way. You can say, bigyan mo ako ng 1.5 mm na angle bar, but give me yung undersize. And that is fairly common practice. That's why pagdating sa site, kailangan chine-check talaga yung proper thickness and dimensions of your steel members. And not only that, you check the dimensions, but you also have to check the strength. Again, this is a laboratory type test na ibibigay natin sa mga testing centers, and your engineer should know how to do this because this is fairly standard practice. Now, we only talked about 3 elements: the backfilling, the concreting, and the steel members. Imagine if you were doing an entire project and yung contractor natin hindi honest. Imagine what they can get away with. So this is why we always recommend to hire proper professionals, and even sa mga biddings, we tend to be a little bit more suspicious kung bakit hindi up to reality yung super cheap na cost. Paminsan, if we really want that cheap cost, ang ginagawa namin is with our professional project managers, kinakausap namin, why are you able to give this to us at this rate na pagbilang pa lang namin, hindi ka talaga kaya. Some good contractors, meron talaga silang ways to go around making it cheaper. Sasabihin nila, oh, I'll source from China. This is the cost from China. This is the way I'm going to set up the construction methodology. Or, I have this type of equipment that makes everything faster and makes everything cheaper. But again, this has to be dealt with a level of suspicion. Now that is why sometimes when quotes are too good to be true, most likely it is. Now that's our video for today, guys. Hopefully it is a little bit of an eye-opener for you guys. We haven't done a lot of sit-down videos for a while, but medyo nakakaubos kasi ng laway. But I hope you liked today's episode, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!